Index futures. Before we actually look at what an index future is, let's consider the fact that you're an investment fund manager. And yes, you're looking to identify opportunities to buy shares with the potential to grow in share price. You may have identified share 1 and there you pick price rises and you've done a good job. But hold on, what happens if you'd picked share 2 instead? This could have actually had greater returns. Share 3, well, this might not have done as well. This is really what happens when you're looking at investing in only one share. What about investing in the index instead? This is really just going to give you an exposure to the broader market, overall moves, and eliminates having to pick and identify one single share and its potential performance. An index looks at a basket. So, what do you imagine an index future is? Well, it's today establishing a contract for settlement in the future which cash settles against the index that you have prescribed. So this is going to enable you to protect, fix prices, and of course always speculate as you can with any future. When considering indices or index futures, it's important to be aware that there are different ways and how to calculate these index values. So we're going to look at 2 examples, the weighted and the value-weighted averages, to explain. First of all, let's have a look at the weighted average, which is considering 3 shares as part of this index, A, B, and C, each trading at a price of 10, 20, and 60 respectively. Now, in order to calculate the index value, it's just a matter of adding up these amounts, dividing by 3, and there you have it. The index value is set at 30. Well, clearly what is part of the process here is assigning equal values or equal weightings to each one of these shares. Now consider that these prices move over time, and now we can calculate the closing prices of each share and recalculate the closing indexed value. Applying the same mathematical process, you now arrive at an index value of 29.67. Notice how this reflects as a 1.11 percentage move in index value. Now, as I said, this process assigns equal weightings to each one of the shares. But this isn't necessarily reflective of how much you've actually paid. For example, this 60 Rand share should have a higher weighting. So let's consider now the value weighting averages. This takes each of the starting prices to consider that you have bought one of each shares, which meant the total portfolio value would be 90. Now we look at the share A and say, well, 10 as a function of that 90 gives you 11%, and you weight that according to the starting price. Now you are able to calculate that share A's contribution to the index is 1.11. Follow this process for each one of the shares, and you arrive now at an index value of 45.56. You can see that this is significantly different to the simple weighted average approach. Now consider the same percentage moves as we did before. Consider the closing prices to the same as we did before, and now using this weighted average process, calculate the closing index price. This has seen the same moves be reflected in the index rather as a 6.59 percentage move lower. Why? Well, obviously the impact of this higher costing share is more accurately feeding through into its contribution to the index. Please be aware with indices, they are calculated on a different method, and a value-weighted average is clearly a more sensitive approach to calculating these indices.